What's up, guys, and welcome to my 7th video in the last 2 days. If you guys can't tell, I'm trying to get these out as quickly as possible. My friends and I are actually playing a game this Friday, so I'm trying to get these finished before the end of the week, so they have a semblance of a clue of what they're doing, hopefully, if they even watch them. But I digress. This video is all about the place units and collect income phase of Global War 1936. For the first portion of this video, I'm just going to mention some bits and bobs about certain restrictions on where you can and cannot place units. And then the main portion of this video is going to be all about Lease delivery. Alright, let's get going. And welcome to my heavily fortified Germany. This one airborne unit is going to hold back the entire tide of British and US forces landing in Europe. Now, this is actual strategic advice. You should definitely vacate Europe and leave one airborne there. Trust me, it works. All right, let's move on. In your place units phase, it's going to be, again, similar to Axis and Allies Global 40. Obviously, you're going to be placing your ground and air units at your facilities, and I'm going to tell you guys more about these facilities in the facilities video. So just for right now, your major factories can drop 5 units, your mediums can drop 3, and your minor factories can drop 1 unit per turn. One thing that's important to remember, if you get any tech throughout the game, whether it be advanced mechanized infantry, advanced artillery, or advanced subs, jet fighters, anything like that, they have to be placed in home country. You can't place them out here in France if you're Germany. You can't place them in Bohemia, that's not home country. You can't place them in Warsaw. It's got to be in Germany. Removing these 2 pieces here, we see that we've got a major shipyard here, which is blue, and a minor shipyard here, which is white. If you are building a capital ship, which is, that term has the same meaning as in Axis and Allies Global 40, just your ships that can take damage, so your battleships, your heavy battleships, fast battleships, fleet carriers, heavy carriers. Any ship that is a capital ship must be built at a major shipyard, and said major shipyard can be outside of your home country, but it must be connected via rail to a factory within home country. So if for whatever reason you had a minor factory here, this minor factory would not be able to build any battleships at this shipyard. It would have to use this rail line through Poland to one of the major factories in German home country if you want to build a capital ship at this major shipyard. And this same principle applies to any ship being built. So your ships are going to be constructed via these shipyards here. I'm going to talk about these in the facility video. But your ships are going to be built using these shipyards. And so what you can do is, it doesn't have to be the factory adjacent to the shipyard that is taking the building points. What I can do is I can use this Bavarian shipyard to build a ship via this shipyard and use one of the 5 building slots from this factory via rail lines to this shipyard here. It's kind of interesting. And that could be important for the Americans at some point because their West Coast really doesn't have a ton of factory production, so you may need to use those eastern factories via rail lines to build ships on your West Coast. So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be the adjacent factory building these ships. You can use other factories via rail lines to drop ships. And factory and facility upgrades and placements are going to be the same as Global 40. If you're upgrading a factory from a medium to a major, you can still use the 3 production points that the medium factory had in the same turn that it is upgraded, and then the next turn it will function fully as a major factory. You can't use factories the same turn they're placed or captured, stuff like that. It's all the same as Global 40. All right, let's move on to Lend-Lease, which is a part of your place units phase. You're going to be trying to deliver your Lend-Lease. All right, so the way that Lend-Lease works is in your production phase, you can create either 1 unit to send to an eligible nation, or up to half of the receiving nation's income. So every nation has its own specific criteria for who it can and cannot lend lease to. I mentioned those in the alliance videos, and it's going to be on your reference sheet. You can look at that, and they're all pretty simple to understand. So for example, if Germany wanted to lend lease to Italy here, they could send them either one unit of any type, or if Italy's income is 10 IPPs per turn, the Germans could send them up to 5 IPPs. So that's cool. So once again, either one unit or up to half of the receiving country's per turn IPP income. The way that lend lease is going to work when you're delivering it here at the end of your turn is you have to start your lend lease supply path at a factory in home country, any factory in your home country. And then if you're delivering over land, so say we're delivering to Italy, you just have to trace a line of unbroken rails to the other country's home country. So again, it's important to note, lend lease is home country to home country. Germany wants to lend lease. They choose this Bavarian factory here to build an Italian infantry. They can use these rails and then drop it in Italian home country via overland lend lease. Things get a little more complicated when we're doing overseas. The way this works is you have to choose a naval facility in home country. Again, gotta be home country. So any of these 3 shipyards that the Germans have can be used for overseas lend lease. And then you decide which receiving port you're going to use. So any of these Italian ports that are in home country, so minor port, major shipyards all the way up here, you can use any of those. And then you determine the shortest sea route between those 2 ports. In this case, it's going to be really long. You're probably going to start here, come through the English Channel, sea zone 24, 33, 48, all the way around until you reach whichever selected dockyard you have. And if that is an unbroken chain of sea zones, then your lend lease delivery is successful and your unit can go where you wanted it to land. Now, it's worth noting that if you're trying to send a unit that's worth more than 3 IPPs or more than 3 IPPs worth of stuff to send, be it just straight up money or a unit that's bigger than an infantry or something like that, you have to go from a major naval facility to a major naval facility. So minor facilities can only facilitate up to 3 IPPs worth of lend lease. So that's easy enough, right? If we were going from major port to major port, easy peasy. But if you're at war with another major power and the shortest route between the 2 ports that you chose contains an enemy submarine, an enemy plane on maritime air patrol, or 3 surface ships. So if we're doing our lend lease to Italy like we just described, whoops, here's a British sub in our way, here's a British plane on maritime air patrol, and here's a British surface fleet of 3 ships or more. So anytime our lend lease passes through one of those sea zones, it's going to be subject to an interdiction roll, which is going to be similar to a convoy rating roll. You're going to roll 2d6, and if the intercepting player rolls higher than the lend leasing player, the lend lease is destroyed. Otherwise, it passes through unscathed. I mentioned in the combat moves video that if you have a surface fleet of 3 or more ships in a sea zone, then all ports are blockaded and cannot send or receive lend lease. And if for whatever reason you cannot trace a supply path to the receiving nation's home country, the lend lease is delayed until the next turn. And on that next turn, you can either decide to try again, delay it again, or reroute it to one of your own factories and build it for yourself. And that is lend lease, guys. A very, very important part of this game. And it really lets the Americans have a big impact early on in the game. All right, I will see you guys next time.